This is the DRS train.
So, Nav, best midfielder?
Kevin De Bruyne, obviously Paul Scholes, Steven Gerrard. What do you think, Nedzo?
Yeah, one of the big English three. Maybe Frank Lampard should go in that discussion.
Great. I was thinking more along the lines of Sergio Perez, maybe, or even the early years of Lando Norris, but yeah, maybe I'm on the wrong podcast. Yeah, today we thought we'd just look at drivers who either spent their whole or most of their careers in the midfield and see who we thought might have been the best one, because there are examples of drivers where they do amazingly in the midfield and, they get regular points, the occasional podium, and then they go to front-running teams, and when they're fighting for wins and championships, they just can't do anything. And there are some drivers that are just like that. So yeah, that's going to be the main discussion, and I guess we'll just throw some names around for people that we think might be good examples. I suppose one that comes to mind, he wasn't around for that long, but we used to discuss, would be Kamui Kobayashi, because he was very popular, very good overtaker, very good racecraft. Sometimes a bit rough with making accidents and everything. Qualifying could be a bit all over the place, but he quite an exciting driver. We don't see many like him anymore, I find.
What I'd say about Kobayashi is that he was only in F1 full time for 4 seasons, and one of those seasons wasn't even in a midfield team. I feel like his run at the start of 2010 was a bit clumsy. I remember he stuff it into the wall on lap 2 in Canada or something like that. I think he did, and he was generally quite error prone in that first half of 2010. 2011, from memory, was all right, and obviously in 2012 he got that podium in Suzuka, and generally he and Perez both did well in that Sauber at points, which makes me feel like it was a bit better car than it was in the constructor standings. But yeah, Kobayashi's an all right driver, great racecraft, and has done fantastically well in endurance racing ever since. So I think I'd more class Kobayashi as one of those drivers who was a great driver, but not really great enough to be really successful in F1. Like a Jean-Eric Vergne, like other drivers who have shown to be fantastic in other series.
You bring up something very interesting here. It's that we need to see how we'll assess those midfield cars. Because when you have two midfielders performing well in a car, then you need to start thinking about how good that car actually is. And the 2012 Sauber is a good example. The 2020 Racing Point is another example. Was it that Perez was that good? And obviously Perez will be another driver we'll mention later. Or was that 2020 Racing Point meant to do much better things? So yeah, Kobayashi, he kind of took the sport by storm when he came, because he wasn't that good in GP2. Then he gets that Toyota replacement gig at the end of 2009, overtakes Jenson Button, and everyone's talking about him when he looked like he would be a random Japanese paid driver. And there was this phase on YouTube, I think in 21 or 22, when a random YouTuber just started posting Kobayashi clips. I think he's called K-Ben something. And it popped up on every single person's YouTube, and all the videos got 200,000 views. So just that guy, who is somehow a Kobayashi Ultra in 2022, made everyone remember him. And it must be said that Kobayashi was exactly that, Eclipse driver. And you cannot just make Eclipse driver become this underrated legend, because at that point everyone was like, oh my god, Kobayashi was so underrated, he deserves so much more, he should have been in the sport for 10 years. You're watching clips of a driver, you're not watching everything he could do on the track.
I think the best way to put Kobayashi's entry to F1 is like he was like a Japanese version of Colapinto. Like everyone was talking about him because of his daring chances and his daring overtakes. I mean, he was definitely a good midfield driver, and he maybe should have stayed in that Sauber seat for a bit longer, because Gutierrez stunk the second Sauber seat up in 2013. I think Hülkenberg and Kobayashi would have been a much better lineup than Hülkenberg and Gutierrez. But I think there's a reason why he wasn't really considered to be. He just fell off the grid. He wasn't bad. He just fell off the grid the same way that De Resta did, the same way that Suttil did. These drivers aren't, other midfielders, they aren't bad drivers by any stretch. They just weren't good enough to maintain the level in F1, and they couldn't sustain a career for longer than 2, 3, 4 seasons.
I mean, the thing is, because he was basically at the peak of his powers in 2012. and then Sauber decided they didn't want him anymore, and there was nowhere else to go because he spent 2013 as a test driver for Ferrari, I think. But then, yeah, that 2014 year is just depressing because that car was so bad, and you could tell he hated it, and there was nothing he could do with it, and there's no possible way to stand out other than beating your teammate, which in his case was a rookie and Marcus Ericsson. So that again, it doesn't.
Was he
isn't
rumored to join other teams at that point?
He must have been, but I don't know who would have been available really because from the decent seats because 2013 like Force India, Sutil came back. Hülkenberg took Kobayashi's seat at Sauber. Obviously, Perez got the McLaren gig in place of Lewis, but otherwise, a lot of the other seats didn't really change much. So there wasn't really anywhere else other to go. Other
That's
than
a
just
good point. And
to stay.
I feel like
it
he was a bit unlucky with that because
Cause-
all the big seats were completely taken by good drivers.
Was it? It was Gutierrez in 13, or was it 14?
What do you mean?
Sauber.
Both of them.
Because was it
years.
both of them? Okay, it was both of them. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He brought a ton of money with him because I remember that Fabio Lima, who won GP2, was trying to get a seat, and I think he tried to get a Sauber seat and then couldn't because Gutierrez had just more money than him. And with Kobayashi, I don't know what his backing. Well, the thing is, originally he was a Toyota driver, and then they collapsed, and so he did because he got the Sauber seat in 2010 at the 11th hour as well. So that I think money was always a problem and that's going to be with any Japanese driver. You're tied to a Japanese manufacturer, and when they're not in the sport anymore, that kind of leaves you in limbo a bit. But he had several more years in him, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and a driver is good when he goes to a different category and he instantly performs, especially a category which at the time had very good drivers. Obviously, the late LMP1 times of endurance had less teams, and that's where Toyota won, and people started saying that there was no competition. But when Kobayashi just went to WEC, that was when Audi and Porsche were still there, and there were very good drivers competing. So, yeah, just a kind of an unfortunate case of, I guess, wrong time. But his teammate, however, in 2012, he is often the driver who is most mentioned in these midfield talks because he had honestly a stellar run in the 2010s in that Force India. But the issue is because of his Red Bull years, a lot of drivers, especially with the Red Bull years coinciding a lot with the rise of the new generation of fans, especially culminating in 2021, a lot of fans seem to not know about his achievements between 2014 and 2016 at Force India. I remember during those times where it was fully Mercedes dominated and there wasn't much going on. Anytime there was a loose third place to be gotten from chaos, Perez would have it every single time, basically. I think there was a year where was it 2016 where he got 5 podiums? 2016, I think.
It's a critical thing to mention that it was always him and never his teammate Hülkenberg.
Exactly.
Yeah. He just obviously he now eventually has got himself that one podium, but it took him 15 years to do it.
Yeah, I mean Perez. People do focus on his Force India / Racing Point / whatever. I actually know he wasn't at Aston Martin, but people do focus on those years. And he was good. There were points where he wasn't. Like I think in 2014 and 15, he wasn't as good as Hülkenberg. Even if he might have got those podiums, I think Hülkenberg, as usual, was quite consistent in terms of delivering like results. But yeah, in Sauber he was good. He did get beaten by Maldonado in GP2, but we'll gloss over that. He was okay, good in 2011, better in 2012. Yeah, his career could have very easily died after his McLaren stint. His career could have very easily just gone by the wayside. But luckily, I think Carlos Slim and his backing put him in that Force India seat. He managed to revitalize. As we said, in that skinny car turbo hybrid era, he did kind of come back alive. And then I'm trying to think, what was he? 2017-18, a very blurry year. Was he better than Ocon in 2017 and 18?
not by much.
He was generally
Um,
matching Ocon. He was like very slightly better, but the issue was Ocon was in his first full season. That was the problem.
I mean, 2017 was excellent from both of them because I think they scored points in every race except Monaco or something like that. It was a really, really good year. They were just undisputedly head of the midfield. 18 was just a bit chaotic because that was when they had the transition to Racing Point, and that's again where Perez deserves credit for helping so much to bail them out and get them going, and then his reward is being kicked so that they can bring Stroll in or whoever it was.
It was
Vettel,
Vettel in 21.
yeah. Well, they were, yeah. Well, he had his contract at the end of 2020. His contract was terminated 2 years early.
And
or
yeah,
something.
he definitely had the class of Stroll in 2019, not in 2020. But yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about purely his midfield stint, it's definitely great. It's definitely good. It's definitely great. It's definitely on the higher side of midfield stints because not only was the average performance really good, it was also for the span of 10 seasons. Like he spent 10 consecutive years in the midfield. Even in 2020, I'd argue that car was at least, it might have been best of the rest. Behind Mercedes and Red Bull, I would maybe it's less midfield and more kind of lower front running, but still longevity in the midfield and doing well. I think that you could basically write off his Red Bull stint because 2021 he was actually all right, and 2022 especially he was really close to Verstappen with that car that was more on the understeer side. It's only when they dialed the cars towards Verstappen's preferences in 23 and 24 like properly did he start looking like a floundering idiot. And even then, he still looked like less of a floundering idiot than both Tsunoda and Lawson did this season. So it proves that he had something about him, even if he was driving like a bit of an idiot. But yeah, Perez is a good one. We went from Kobayashi's teammate to Kobayashi's teammate. Why don't we go for one of Perez's teammates and let's actually talk about Nico Hülkenberg?
One last thing before Hülkenberg is Perez. I think we need to really, really give him credit for recovering from that 2013 season. As you said, that season I think is. I I have a theory that if you ask 70% of the people with papaya merch at Grand Prix now, who drove for them in 2013, they would not say Perez. And that is not me saying, oh, you should know every single thing about the team you support. I'm not telling them to know the 70s drivers for McLaren and all those random people at the time. But I feel like Sergio Perez at McLaren in 2013 is one of the most obscure recent just driver seats in the last 15 years. And as you said, most drivers would have just completely died off after that, and he came back from that. So, yeah, especially in the fashion he did. So, yeah, he might be back in 2026. So let's see. But yeah, we're moving on to Hülkenberg. I really like what you said, Peter, at the start, which is all those podiums that Perez got in Force India, that was also podiums that Hülkenberg didn't get. And at the time, he was extremely highly rated. Alonso, Hamilton, also Hülkenberg as a top 5, top 3 driver on the grid, even. But he never managed to deliver at that point. And as you said, until Sauber this year, it really looked like he wouldn't get that podium. So, yeah, how do we assess those Force India years? He was more consistent than Perez, but he just always made a mistake, didn't he?
He just seemed like he couldn't really. It was less opportunistic, I suppose, because he had. It's been discussed at length before he got this podium. The amount of times he could have got one and then basically blew it himself. Has been a thing. I mean, a few times it was out of his control, but a lot of them, it's things like Brazil 2012 is a very obvious example where he possibly could have even won the race as well. Whereas Checo, that just didn't. He just kind of kept himself out of trouble, and that was what made the difference. And Hülkenberg didn't do that, even though elsewhere he did everything a midfielder was supposed to do. I mean, we saw that the first real sign of potential came in his first season when he got that pole position. I mean, admittedly, you know, a fair few things had to fall into place for it to happen, and there was no chance he was going to win the race. But it was like that's a good way to stand out as a rookie, and his reward was becoming a test driver in 2011. But yeah, it just wasn't. It was just choking at all the wrong moments, and even the podium he got this year could have so easily not happened. But that was a lot of Lewis choking that kind of made sure it did.
I think the best way to describe Hülkenberg is Schrodinger's F1 driver. He's both consistent and really good in the midfield, and also inconsistent at the same time because he does make those errors and he does do things that most other drivers don't do. He was good in 2010. He was good in 2012. I think he was. I can't remember if he was actually better than Perez. I think he was over not Perez, Di Resta over the course of the season. He dominated Gutierrez in 2013, absolutely destroyed him, and races like Korea. I think he got another fourth place that year. No, he got third in qualifying at Monza. That was a good run. And I think he might have got another fourth place. As we talked about his years with Perez, he beat him in 2014 and 15, and then in 16, I think it was less. It was less obvious. Obviously, he slapped Jolyon Palmer up. He did well against Carlos Sainz. In both 2017, back end of 2017 and 2018. And actually, people don't realize this. I think on average in 2019, he was less than a tenth off of Ricciardo in qualifying, and I think only a few seconds on average off of him in the races. Which I know Ricciardo wasn't in his greatest form in 2019, but it was definitely he was not far removed from his Red Bull days, and 2020 was arguably in some people's eyes his best season. So Hülkenberg to stand up against him as well as he did. I think does prove kind of what his upper ceilings are, and obviously the season that arguably revitalized his career was 2020 when he did those stand-ins Racing Point, getting third in qualifying in Silverstone, doing well in the race in Eifel or the Nürburgring, as if you talk about the actual circuit. That basically revitalized his career, even if it took him another 3 seasons or another 3 years to get that seat. So. And I mean, his Haas years were just kind of decent or average, flattered with a couple of good results in 24. And then this year, I suppose, ever since his podium, he's been absolutely stinking up the gaff. Bottas has been destroying him, but he has got that podium. So, I mean, he probably doesn't even care, and he's probably going to retire at the end of the year.
It's easy to forget that he's actually had quite extended periods not on the grid.
Yeah.
Because he's been so in the spotlight. Because, like we said, he wasn't here in 2011. He was then out of a seat for the whole of 21. He did a few subs in 2020. 22, he did 2 races for Aston and then was gone again, and then came back. So there's been a lot of patches where he hasn't raced, but he's just always been so present in people's minds and that. But yeah, another point with this year is that he got the podium and he's put on some really good performances, but he has been utter dog shit in qualifying. He's just getting eliminated in Q1 constantly. And I guess it's the same as there was
what do you make of that? Because Hülkenberg was, to me, one of the best qualifiers around, and he was keeping up with Magnussen, who's also quite known for qualifying, if anything. And is it that they're setting up the car differently? Do you think is Bortoletto actually the new Senna? It's really weird. Like that, I would have never guessed that. Before the year started.
I feel like because the field spread is so small, that's just kind of exposing a lot of people, or it's maybe exaggerating things. Because we saw, for example, in the most recent race in Hungary, Tsunoda was only 0.3 off Max, which normally is nothing, but that was enough to get him knocked out in Q1 again. And it's even when he's relatively close to him. And so it's just that it's such fine margins that are doing it maybe. That he just doesn't have that edge anymore.
I also think that age is part of it because he's 38, I think, now. And what I think that with most drivers, it's the case that you lose your qualifying pace first. I don't think Hülkenberg has actually lost his peak qualifying pace because he still had decent enough sessions this year. I just think instead of his qualifying pace getting infinitely worse, I think his consistency has got infinitely worse because his consistency wasn't that great to begin with. That's why I think he never got a top ride. If he'd have been as consistent as someone like a Hamilton or Alonso, he could have been a champion. But he wasn't able to string those great results that you see like once or twice a year for the entire season. I think his consistency just got even worse to the point where 5 times out of 6, he's going to have a bad qualifying, and then that other time he's going to have an average or a slightly better than average qualifying. But you only see the negative ones because you see him getting knocked out in Q1 all the time.
What's the head-to-head in quali this year? Do you have the stats?
I can pull it up on my phone. Hold on, because I've got both the qualifying gaps and the I'll look at the qualifying. I don't like head-to-heads because you can beat someone by 1 second in one race and then get beaten by a tenth in another, and then you're both equal, and it's like that shouldn't be how it is. Let me see if it's going to load. Is it going to be slow? While we're looking at that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can say about Nico. Obviously, if Audi does well next year, he could be on for more podiums.
And also, if he got that 2013 Mercedes seat, and he was the preferred driver apparently at the time, and then Niki Lauda vouched for Lewis, then everything is different. He wins races, he probably competes for titles easily. Not easily, because Rosberg was much better than people think, but his entire path would have been different. Do you think that consistency is why a top team never went for him after 2015 then?
Yes, pretty much. By the way, my stats have come back. I forgot to do up until Hungary, so I've only got until Silverstone, unfortunately. But he has on average been slightly quicker than Bortoleto by less than half a tenth of a second in qualifying, but in the races, slightly better. But obviously that doesn't count for the last 2 weekends, so that might have changed. It might have gone to the point where actually he's further behind, especially considering Bortoleto's recent form. So that's actually completely useless in terms of gauging him. But Hülkenberg is definitely up there as one of the stalwarts of the midfield, because as we've said, he's been in and around the Formula One paddock for 15 years now. So he's like, is he in the top 10 for most starts in F1 history?
Probably. He's on about 250 something now.
So he's on about the same what Coulthard was when he retired.
Around Coulthard, around Patrese levels, Trulli, those kind of drivers.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of, do you want to go? Speaking of Trulli.
Trulli, yeah. He was a midfielder. Going back a little bit further. I mean, he had, I suppose, his big year. I mean, 2004, 2005 were kind of the top years, really. I know that Ciaron has a lot to say about 2004, but
I was gonna say, if Ciaron was here on Trulli 2004, this would not be about midfield. It would be about how Fernando Alonso was actually beaten by a teammate, but it never gets mentioned.
But then the thing is, I mean, I don't know enough about that season specifically, but like Trulli was the one that got dropped early because he crashed into someone in Spa, didn't he? And then they brought Villeneuve in to help them in the constructors, and he got himself lapped twice.
I think what it actually was he got overtaken on the last lap in Magny-Cours by Barrichello. And Flav didn't like that because it was team's home race, and so he got rid of him. But he was basically,
even though they're based in Enston, but yeah.
I think that he if Trulli would have existed today, he could have actually been a weapon, because think about it now, how important is qualifying nowadays? And how hard it is to overtake nowadays, especially when you've got a driver who's really good at defending, like Trulli was. He'd
be like a 5-time winner at Monaco or something. Like,
yeah, yes. He'd have basically been like the Shane Van Gisbergen of F1 when it comes to NASCAR, because he'd be able to get like 1 or 2 wins a year and just farm wins when he gets a good qualifying at a hard to overtake track.
Imagine Trulli in Hungary this year.
I'm trying to think of why Hungary this year. Am I being thick?
Just because of how tight it is in quali and how easy it is.
I get
That's all I meant. That's all I meant. It's not harder than that.
I mean,
yeah, he did.
Carry on.
He did his Trulli trains, but like early on, like it was with Prost. He subbed for them and he nearly won a race at one point and was doing all that. And like, yeah, we need to get him out of this Minardi, get him in something decent. What did he? Because that was 97.
Yes.
1998. He stayed with Prost for a couple of years, didn't he?
Yeah, I think until like 2000, 2001.
And then he went to
he stayed until 2000. And there's this. I remember Chicane's video on Prost is really good on this, but it's on how Prost basically. So he rated Trulli really highly, and then by 2000, Trulli was not progressing as fast as he should have, because Trulli was one of those drivers who in the first 2 years did really well for where he was, but then it kind of stagnated.
Yeah, it's around Jordan around 2001, 2002, that era. It's a bit confusing because they kept firing people, and like Frentzen and Alesi and everyone else is just moving around a lot, and I forget who was who in which year. He did those, and then it was Renault.
Yes.
Yeah, then Renault, then Toyota. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lotus.
Yeah, that's not class Lotus as a midfield team.
No.
But do you think his best car was the Renaults in 2003 and 4, or do you think it was the Toyota in 2009?
the Toyota in 2009 was all over the place because they went from qualifying in the front row in Bahrain to qualifying on the back row in Monaco.
Oh, okay.
Like the car just couldn't make its mind up if it wanted to be good or not. The 04 and 05 were more consistent. I mean, 05, yeah, there was some pole positions, but the race pace did not exist. Like they couldn't keep up with Renault or McLaren or the other one, Ferrari. That's the one.
Here's another conspiracy theory. Could Jarno Trulli have been a champion if Toyota had have stayed in F1 in 2010? Because apparently, according to because Stefan GP, the failed Serbian team, tried to purchase their chassis because apparently, or their proposed 2010 chassis, and apparently that was supposed to be like top 3 chassis on the grid. So
yeah, HRT tried to get it as well, but it was too expensive, so it couldn't.
But could you
Look, wait, why didn't they just sell it to get some money instead of no money? I never get that.
Yeah, because it's just, I think, didn't it become, maybe I'm pulling this out of my arse, didn't it become the Pirelli test car?
Probably.
Yes, no, it didn't, unless that was the 09. I'm sure that car ended up becoming used by Pirelli to test their tyres in 2011.
Because surely it wouldn't just go to waste. At least you're going to give it to some backmarkers and be like, money is money, especially Toyota who are corporate fiends. They wouldn't say no to.
And you think as well, if HRT is like maybe just lower the price just to get it off their hand, you get something. Because if you're abandoning a Formula One, you don't really care about that anymore. Just concentrate on
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
selling normal cars. Yeah, why not?
We talked this year about Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris not being worthy champions. Can you imagine if Timo Glock won a Formula One World Championship?
I mean, he was just. He was a midfielder. I mean, not for very long, but he was there for a bit. But I guess his big selling point is having massive crashes all the time.
Who, Timo Glock?
Yeah,
but also just on Trulli as well. 2000. Wait, did you mean Glock? What do you mean with Glock crashes?
Well, there was Germany 2008 when he twisted it into the wall. He broke his wrist. Suzuka 2009. He had a couple of shunts with Virgin and Marussia. I'm sure there was another big one in 2000. Australia 2008 when he went airborne as well. The man just loved to crash.
Mid-German drivers making loads of accidents in their career. Where have I heard that before?
But yeah, no, truly, just to rate him a bit, he was extremely fast. Obviously, stood up to Alonso because when that sacking happens, he's leading Alonso 46-45 in the driver standings because Alonso was struggling a bit more in 2004, even though it wasn't bad. It's just really got that win in Monaco when Alonso got punted off by Ralf Schumacher before giving him the middle finger. So yeah, it was a weird one. But how do you assess his time in Renault then before he goes to Toyota? Because we talked about Toyota, but
up and down, but overall average is what I'd say.
Okay.
I mean, good enough until Alonso came along, basically.
Yeah.
Speaking
of another Renault driver who had Alonso as a teammate, should we go to Fisichella?
For me, the king of midfielders, honestly.
Now we're entering real middery with Fisichella. Just so okay. Like, yeah.
So he starts off at, I think it's Minardi in 1996. He does a few races. I think it was at this point where they were having to choose between Fisichella and Giovanni Lavaggi because they were choosing between money or speed. They were kind of picking between the two that year. And I think he went to Jordan in 90. Did he go to Jordan in 97?
Yeah.
And then
with Ralph. Then he was at Benetton for 10,000 years.
Which then became Renault. No, he went to Jordan again because he won that race in Brazil.
Yeah, he went back in 2002 or two. I don't know. No, 2002 he went there with Sato, another very easy teammate. 2003 he was still there. 2004 he goes to Sauber.
Yes, with Felipe Massa.
It's one of those really random, just 1 year moves that people do, like Checo going to McLaren and stuff. Just a year at Sauber because why not? And then Renault. Yeah.
Then Renault, then Force India.
I mean, yeah, he got a couple of wins at Renault, which is fine. But yeah, not
I mean,
not the size.
a bit better than fine, surely. He
Yeah,
was, yeah.
well, he won. What was it? Australia 2005, Malaysia two.
Okay.
Okay, he won 2 races. Yeah, and then Malaysia 2006.
Yeah.
But otherwise, just was around, hanging around, and yeah, not
But
really
I think we
used.
need to spend more time on his early years because he was doing, I would say, really well in those midfield cars.
Yeah,
He was
there
getting a
were.
lot of podiums.
Yeah, there were a whole bunch of podiums with Benetton. He was doing a sort of Checo late 90s.
And
trying
in
to think, was it?
2009, of course, India with that result at Spa,
Oh, the pole. Yeah,
and then the second place.
that came out of nowhere. There was because it was. I think it was like he got podiums at Canada 2 years in a row. I think 98 and 99.
Mm.
And then it just like it's like, oh yeah, it's all fine and well, but I think just better drivers came along and he just kind of got drowned out a bit by that.
Yeah. He
got messed up by
the
Alonso. He got messed up by the 2001 rookies, bar Mazzacane.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Although Mazzacane raced in the 2000 season, so he wasn't a 2001 rookie.
Who was the fourth rookie then?
Benoldi. It was Kimi, Alonso,
Benoldi.
Yeah, Benoldi. Yeah.
He's the one I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Renault, I think he really got shown up in 2006 because, yeah, that was the season where Alonso really, really put a gap. Well, both Schumacher and Alonso decided to show why they were the number one drivers, and there's that clip from Australia 2006 where he's being told he's 2 seconds slower than Alonso, and now it's getting thrown around everywhere. And I think that was kind of a good summary of the dynamic for that year. He was really getting slower than his teammate, but he stayed there for 2007, and he was better than Kovalainen, if that says anything. I'm not sure. But
He was until like not near the tail end of the season. It swung towards Kovalainen, but otherwise, it's like you're beating a rookie.
Kovalainen did have it was an underrated rookie season though. To be fair, I think he got a couple of second places and a couple of third places that year.
Well, he got 1 podium, which was
Oh,
Japan. He was kind of silent but deadly, I guess. He was doing good enough, but he did towards the end. He kind of, I mean, he was obviously better than Satil in 2008 and 2009 because Satil was just a perpetual crasher. But at the end when he joined Ferrari, that was not a good move because he was just only marginally better than Badua at the end.
Yeah.
Why do you think he was that slow? Because I don't have the insights as to why he was that slow. Was the car just hard to handle, or?
Yes, I think that's what it was. I think it's like a 2025 Red Bull kind of situation where Kimi was the only driver who could even get a handle on it. And let's be honest, like Badoa wasn't the greatest of drivers, and neither Fisichella by that point. He had, as we said, he had that good race in Spa, but other than that, he'd just kind of been all right. And by that point, he was also, I think he was like 35. So he would have been starting to go over the hill by that point.
It's just that result at Spa, it's one of the biggest anomalies ever in Formula One because the car was nowhere up until that point all season. And then suddenly he gets this pole and almost wins the race. And then they just go back to being shit.
It wasn't an anomaly in the sense that they also performed in Monza. They just fully went on top speed.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't perform as hard at Monza because there was a 4th place. I think Satil was 4th there.
Yeah,
he finally got
qualified
some points.
second. Qualified second and finished 4th. Yeah.
Yeah. So in each case, they went backwards, even if they still got points.
Yeah.
I still think that's one of the smartest strategies ever by a backmarker team. Just fully focus on top speed, which is what Williams have done in recent years. You know you're going to get points in 2 of the races, and that's good enough. That's the money that allowed them to then build the 2010 scores that eventually got Perez the podiums and became Aston Martin. I don't think that happens if they try to actually make a good car and they just end up being lost all the time.
It's the kind of thing that probably would have worked really well in the 80s and 90s when reliability was so bad that like getting 1 point will like skyrocket you up the standings.
Yes.
Because most people can't score ever because the car just doesn't bloody work.
So we've talked about Trulli, we've talked about Fisichella. I'm going to go on a limb here, and this will be quite a strange thing, but I think you could argue that Alonso is also part of his midfielder battle because of the extended stints that he's done in these midfield cars and midfield machinery.
That's a decent goal, you know.
He's been around for so long that he's been everywhere for extended periods of time. Like, he's just everything all at once.
Yeah.
Best backmarker of all time, Alonso.
Yeah, best everything. But like, if we look, the seasons where he'd be genuine midfield would be what 03, 09, 15, and 16.
Come on.
Most of 2008.
Most of 2008. 15 to 18, and then
2004 as well.
No, I'd say that they were fighting for second in the constructors with Renault. Not Renault, the other one, BAR.
If you're including 2003, you need to include 2004. 2003, he was like in the title fight for a bit.
I guess he got one win. I mean, he didn't get any wins in 2004, but the car was it was like basically third fastest. I mean, the thing is, technically that year, everyone except Ferrari was a midfielder, but it's like, it's not.
That depends how you consider it. Yeah.
It's not, but there's like 15 to 18 is midfield. So is 20, 21, 22, and then 24 onwards. And
14 is midfield as well.
14, yeah, as well. Yeah. There's a lot in there.
What are we considering for 2023? I think it's midfield just because it's so inconsistent.
Second half is midfield.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely up there. Like, for example, 2014, there are certain years where he was genuinely the best driver on the grid, except he was in a midfield car, like 2014, perfect example. He was the best driver that year, considering his machinery. And
over to Ciaron Smith for the insights on 24.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Raikkonen did take a long while to get used to. No, it was something to do with a setup or something, because they're like after Singapore or something, he was like so much closer to Alonso and so much more consistent, which is fair enough. I do get, but Raikkonen was maybe a bit poorly misrepresented by that season and the point standings and all that sort of stuff. But Alonso was still absolutely godly in terms of what he could drag out of that car. And that tends to be how it goes with Alonso. When the chips are stacked against him, he tends to perform really well. And then when he's in a really good situation, he gets ahead of himself and he burns bridges and he does everything that a champion shouldn't do, which is...
He's very good at making everything all about him and being very dramatic and kicking up a fuss, because he'll be noisy and complain, and Kimi will just kind of carry on in quiet desperation and not say anything. And 2014 was a very good example of that. Yes. But then the performance difference was quite significant between the two as well.
Yeah,
that year.
It was. I think it was 161 points to 55, and I think by the end of the season, Raikkonen had started to catch up a little bit from memory. But yeah, it was just a bit bleak on Raikkonen's case. Raikkonen can't be considered a midfield driver because the last couple of years at Sauber is maybe the only ones, and the third.
Okay, well, 2001 was midfield.
Yes,
a lot of 2000.
Let's stop on Alonso first, I guess.
Alonso. Then we'll look at Kimi after Alonso. Yeah.
Because I was going to say also 2008. That was another year where most analysts had Alonso as fastest because of what had happened the last 3 years, and he was stuck in that Renault where crash games, but also he wins in Fuji. And the second half, that's the thing. How do you analyze the second half of that Renault? Because was it? I mean, it was a top 3 fastest car on the grid, right? When Alonso just finished top 4, 6 races in a row.
He did what Button did in 2006, where he scored more points than anyone in the last 5 races or something. Because again, when I ran that season in reverse, he was leading the championship for a few races, and that. But I think he must have been so relieved to have got that second win, because it would have taken the heat off the first and made everyone think, oh no, the car is actually good enough to win races. And it would have been so suspect otherwise.
Although that win was very 2021 Monza, I think in that race, either Hamilton or Massa would have won had they not crashed into each other.
Yeah, so because Hamilton, he nearly killed Kovalainen at the start, and then Massa took him out, and then Massa also took out Bourdais, and didn't get penalised for either of them.
And Kimi also got out in the first turn, right?
There was maybe it was Kobayashi, because I know that what's his face, Coulthard and Nakajima, surprise, crashed into each other at the start. there was something else that happened, maybe. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of them that went out at the start. But yeah, that one was just a bit of a weird race because they both ended up. Hamilton was outside the points, and I think Massa only just got in the points.
Yeah.
And
Another reason why Alonso is good to have in this discussion is there's a thing called Formula 1.5 on Reddit, which is basically Formula One without the top teams. And I think Alonso is the guy who's won it the most. So there you go.
Yeah, he's just always present there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's good from the perspective. Well, the thing is, if you look at purely the midfield, there's the odd good result, and very occasionally there's a podium. But so much of it is him just whining and complaining endlessly.
But also drugging the car, I'd say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
So
he
fair
does.
to-
Yeah, and destroying careers of potentially very good drivers in the process. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll never know how good Stoffel was, so that's an interesting one. 2016, that's one where like Alonso does really well because he finishes 10th in the standings with a car that's I have no idea what he was doing to the 2016 McLaren. So yeah, quite
Again,
a
that
big
was
reason
him
of just
complaining so much more than Jensen. But by that point, Jensen just stopped caring because he was going to retire. So
Yeah.
Jensen fully said he did 2016 for the salary, and everyone knew.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We were going to go to Raikkonen.
But yes, Kimi, yeah.
Yeah. So like
So-
midfield seasons for Kimi would have been what 2001 was Sauber. Most of 2000.
McLaren.
I mean, really, that's a front running car. It's just that it didn't work. It just broke down
Okay.
all the time. 2000 most of 2004, some of 2009,
Yeah.
2014, and then 19 to 21. So quite a lot, more than most people's careers, with him just in the midfield cars.
Yeah.
It's again getting a bit of a case of just drivers with long careers are going to get mentioned. I just realized, like Button is going to be considered at some
Hamilton
point.
isn't going to get mentioned. Got to get his name in.
We still haven't had proper midfield yet. It will happen, but it hasn't quite happened yet.
Yeah.
him.
But yeah, I think Raikkonen.
Hasn't he been on Twitter, Peter? He's obviously been a midfield driver since 2016, and he's been dragging those cars to titles.
Just ignore how often he gets beaten by his teammates since then as well. And yeah,
Back to Raikkonen. I'm being the Karen of himself. No, but yeah, he's just kind of good or above average in those midfield cars. 2001, obviously, as a rookie, I can't remember what his stats looked like against Heidfeld, but they would have been decent. 2002 against Coulthard, or maybe not about that year, but 2004 against Coulthard, he definitely was better. 2009, I mean, being better than Felipe Massa, Luca Badoer, and Giancarlo Fisichella is like beating a paraplegic in a 100 meters race. But it's down that road of being a good season. 2014, we talked about that, and 2019 to 2021, there were glimpses of really good results, but overall, it was just kind of like two drivers who were slightly outperforming their machinery. But there's not really much you can take from 2019 to 2021 Sauber.
I mean, I suppose one point of note: when he was in front running cars, he had pretty highly rated teammates
yes,
to race against, whereas in the midfield, not so much.
Yeah,
and that was where he tended to kind of annihilate them.
Yeah.
But then also he put on a lot of his more daring drives in midfield. It's just you didn't notice it because it's the midfield.
Yeah. And also because of this kind of this idea that for some reason there were just some seasons he couldn't be bothered, when I don't think that was the case.
But yeah, he was very good at trying not to draw attention to himself and getting
Yeah.
a lot of attention in the process, but just not saying anything and not doing anything.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of another driver that we can segue into now, because we've done that the entire way. We've managed to segue into every single driver.
Well,
we should
I
look-
think we can segue to a Finnish driver who raced at the same time, because
Okay.
although I feel like
Yeah,
mentioning Alonso and Raikkonen, yeah, but I think mentioning Alonso and Raikkonen was relevant enough because they have been here for ages, so it was fine. But we should go back to the actual midfielders, and one who, I don't know, is again kind of a weird one, because Bottas, he was at Mercedes for so long, yet Williams he was definitely a midfielder, and then at Alpha was again, and next year he might be one with Cadillac if rumors are to be true. But if rumors were to be true, Cadillac have signed 13 drivers for next year. So who knows?
Perfect 2015 Sauber.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to do their own series for Formula Cadillac with their own spec series at this rate.
Yeah.
You know what's mad is the fact that they could, with the rumors, they could easily have a 15 car grid, which also I would love to theorize who would be in that. But anyway, Bottas in 2014 had a great season, or was it Massa being shit and the car being very good? What do you think?
Well, that car had a Mercedes engine. That's one thing we have to point out. That Mercedes engine in the McLaren, in the Williams, in the Force India.
Force India.
Yeah, definitely made those cars seem better than they were. They weren't terrible cars to begin with anyway, especially the McLaren though. We saw how at points that car was able to compete, and with the Williams as well. I mean, they got pole positions for crying out loud. In Austria, they got one pole position with Massa. So that car clearly was capable on its day, and it had a lot of top end speed. We saw that in all of the Williams years during that early skinny turbo hybrid era. How Bottas was able to pull, I think at Baku, in the first year at Baku, he did 378 kilometers an hour or something ridiculous like that. Yeah, I do think Bottas was good, but I do think that being up against Felipe Massa post accident did kind of flatter him. Because I think we saw this with Lewis Hamilton. He was able to keep up with Hamilton 5 races a season, but the rest of the time he was not nowhere, but he was not on the same level. And when you're up against someone like Massa, who is also inconsistent, you can look good against him because even on your inconsistent days, you're still better than him. So, yeah, I think that Bottas, he's a good midfielder, don't get me wrong, and he would definitely be an asset to a team like Cadillac, especially now with over 10 years of experience and all of the knowledge he has in a World Championship winning operation. Perfect for a team like that. But I think his record against Maldonado wasn't that special. His record against Massa was good, but it's against Felipe Massa. Stroll, I mean, it was a rookie Lance Stroll, and then the rest of his teammates were Zhou, and that's it. So I don't think there's really much we can really generate from that.
I kind of feel like it's kind of stretching the definition of midfield with those Williams cars, because in 2014 it was basically battling for second best of Red Bull. 2015 they were again, it was kind of third fastest type deal. And again, getting pole positions on podiums, it's not really... I mean, 2016, they did drift a bit more, but it's not proper midfield in that sense.
If we're judging Alonso 2003 to be midfield, then...
Yeah, it's like upper midfield, I guess.
Yeah, it's like podium. There should be a term for like podium cars, because that's what they are.
Yeah. But obviously
it is kind of Schrodinger's F1 cars. They're not front runners, but they're not midfielders.
Or they come across as midfielders because the front runners are constant front runners and have just made their own front running thing happen.
Yes.
And just make everyone else look like midfielders.
Yeah.
But still, like those years at Williams, they were good enough to get that Mercedes seat. That must be said.
Yeah.
Although like it should have been Wehrlein. It could have been Alonso if they wanted chaos. They went for the safest option of all, which is annoying, but he was still the only one who was earmarked kind of out of pure talent. Like it wasn't the German driver in the system. It wasn't the champion who's rotting in a back marker. It was the only guy who they were like, okay, this guy has potential. And I mean, even if we're talking about midfielders today, we can still look at their time in a good car, because that 2018 season, that's the year where he really got broken, because in 2017 he was performing next to Lewis, and in 2018 he said he even considered leaving Formula One. He was completely out of the game, and well, he came back, but arguably his confidence never really recovered against Lewis.
Kind of credit to him is that even though most of the time he gave him little to no challenge, he did occasionally beat Lewis, whereas Heikki Kovalainen, as Lewis's teammate, never did. I mean, the closest he got to that was getting pole in Silverstone, then losing the lead like 3 laps in or something.
Yeah.
Whereas Bottas could do that sometimes. He could just be faster.
Yeah. I mean, Bottas, I think his best season against Lewis was 2019, definitely. Because I think on average he was only like 4 seconds off him in the races, which is mental. because I mean, this is the thing people don't realize. We're getting into Lewis talk here, but people don't realize that Lewis's downfall has been going on for a while now, and it started around 2019, and you can see that with
Yeah.
how he was performing against Bottas.
Just
I think
the lack of challenge, I suppose, from the only person that can really keep up with you.
Yeah, I think obviously Bottas did have a brief stint at Sauber, and I think two drivers that also need to be mentioned had a lot of their most crowning moments in a Sauber. I think they were also teammates at one point, Kubica and Heidfeld.
Yeah, let's look at Heidfeld first because I also think that's a master midfielder in this discussion.
Yeah, Hülkenberg before Hülkenberg was
Because
Hülkenberg.
yeah, 14 podiums. Is it 14 podiums that the winner? 13.
13, I think.
It's something huge, yeah.
Yeah, 13 podiums without a win. What were the races he actually could have won, though? I wish Ciaron was here because he's a big Heidfeld fan. But
I mean,
Were there-
Canada 2008, he just was on a shitter strategy than Kubica. Finished second in that one.
Didn't they get
He got-
didn't they get pole in Bahrain 2008?
Kubica did, but not thing. And obviously Massa won it because it was a boring race in the Middle East where nothing happened, so only Massa could win it. Then he got pole Germany 2005, and
That was a race. Was that the race where Raikkonen blew up, or was that Europe 2005?
Yeah, no, Nürburgring. So yeah, it was where his tire went. Yeah. He had that. There was one fluky podium with Lotus Renault in 2011, but you're not going to win races in a car.
Yeah.
Was
that Malaysia or was that Australia? I think it was Malaysia.
It was Malaysia because Australia was Petrov. 2000. I think in 2007 he got a bunch of podiums while Kubica didn't get any.
And then he got kind of outclassed in 2008. That's kind of the
Otherwise, there was nothing. He was pretty harmless. There was nothing wrong with him, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just kind of Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg was Hülkenberg, and then
There's always been a point about how when people compared Norris with Heidfeld before Norris got the wins,
yes,
Norris was botting wins, whereas Heidfeld generally wasn't. He was just there.
I think Heidfeld actually. I keep saying Hülkenberg, but he was more like a Perez because Perez never got a chance to win before 2020. He was just getting
2012 Malaysia.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, Heidfeld never really had that opportunity. There might have been chances like he got a couple of second places, a couple of third places, but it wasn't really. He was never in a situation where he could have ever done anything. I think had he used his Mercedes connections a bit better and he got into McLaren and stayed there as like a potential driver, he could have done something. But then again, he could have easily joined McLaren in 2006 and done fuck all. So, there's a lot to be had with Heidfeld. He could have done a lot more, and arguably he left F1 in 2011. How old was he at that point? He was like
he would have been 34, yeah.
So he could have still kept going 2012, 2013. He was definitely better than some of the drivers on the grid those years. Bruno Senna.
He tried. I think he tried. He just other teams were looking for things because he didn't have that much funding compared to others.
Yeah, that's a good point, I suppose.
He wouldn't get Germany funding because there were like 4 German drivers better than him at that stage.
Yeah.
And other teams, you said Bruno Senna. We know why Bruno Senna was on the grid. Pastor Maldonado, the same. So I know he was looking for a seat. He just didn't manage to find one. And even when he did get them, like as from 2009, who did he replace and where? At some point, he was just a sub.
2009, he was with Kubica at BMW Sauber.
Yeah. He had that seat, and then he lost.
You mean 2010?
When he lost,
he was off the grid. He was off. No, he replaced De La Rosa at Sauber in 2010.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he was a Pirelli test driver.
Yes.
And I think, although I think, didn't he say he never drove the car or something, or like he just something like that, and then he got that gig with Sauber.
Yeah.
And then Lotus Renault.
Yeah.
It just kind of ended kind of tragically because otherwise there's nothing. Yeah, it was another very, very Hülkenberg coded driver.
Yes.
I mean, he could have gone. I don't know where he could have stayed. He probably would have retired at the end of 2016. I don't know because he'd have been 39 at that point.
Yeah, he could have easily gone to one of the back market teams. I think like he could have I don't know, taken over. If he'd have stayed in 2012, taken over when Timo Glock retired or something, I don't know.
No, but he tried. I know he tried. He just couldn't because he didn't have everything that the backmarkers wanted.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I wonder where did Timo Glock get the money that Heidfeld didn't, for example.
I don't know.
I'm not sure who. I don't know who his backers were, but because I mean, his was a bit random to do half a season with Jordan and then come back 4 years later after winning GP2, and then but then his season collapsed when he went to. I mean, he had nowhere to go because of Toyota. Toyota withdrawing really put a number on a lot of the drivers, and then he's like stuck at Marussia, and he knew it was going to be shit, and then he tore his contract up early because he was like, I can't be arsed with this anymore. This is just so fucking boring. Yeah. You just can't. I mean, the thing is that
sorry, just Heidfeld. The other thing is how he just went to Formula E. Obviously, he didn't have a seat, but he was one of those drivers like Di Grassi who was like, "Oh yeah, Formula E is definitely the future." And I was like, I think he did some endurance, but at least fully go into endurance. Don't fold to Formula E in 2014.
He's been now he's like shilling for some alternate electric series or something. Just him and this random Indian businessman being like, no, watch this instead, and our electric cars and whatever. I don't know. Yeah, he's done that. I think maybe he did some rallying. There was some WEC. Yeah, but it's been. I mean, everyone just forgot now because it's been 14 years since he was in F1, so he's just very forgotten about now.
Yes. One driver who definitely is forgotten about though.
What would you say is his best race, Heidfeld?
I can't even remember half of them. That's the problem.
We'll ask Ciaron on that one, and Con can put it in the edit what he thinks. I don't know. Like, genuinely, I don't know enough about the early 2000s to be able to say, and there aren't any standout races in the late 2000s. So we can't.
How even was he? Because he did Prost in 2000. He was Sauber 2001. I think 2002 he was at Sauber still.
Yeah, that's where he crashes into the safety car door.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and also doesn't he twat it into Sato as well in Austria? Yeah, 2003. I think he was still there with Frentzen. 2004
wasn't there because Fisichella and Massa were there.
Where was he? In
Jordan.
Oh yeah, Jordan. Then he goes to Williams. Then he goes to BMW Sauber. Yeah.
I think one of those drivers who was a bit unlucky that Mercedes came too late into the sport because I think they would have gotten him.
Should we try someone a bit further back? Because we're very V10 era at the moment. I'm thinking someone like, sorry,
Martin Brundle.
Yeah, we could talk about him certainly because he had he's another one that had another wad of podiums of no wins, but his career was very, very stop-start, very interrupted, not very smooth. Yeah.
That's because obviously he goes up against Stefan Beloff in 1984, and that season obviously got completely wiped from the surface of the earth, despite the fact that he existed and he did Formula One that year. That obviously wasn't really particularly fair. He stayed with Tyrrell in 85. Then he moved to did he go to Zach Speed in 86?
There was Tyrrell.
He was there in 87 or 86. One of them.
There was a Ligier at one point.
That was in the 90s. That was in the 90s.
Zach Speed was 87.
And he's the only driver to get Zach Speed any points.
80. Yeah, 80. I've got it here. Where is it? There. Tyrrell, it was a couple of years of Tyrrell. Then it was Zach Speed. 87. 88. He was gone. He did one race with Williams, and then Brabham. Then he went to Brabham in 89. Then he had another year off. Then he came back in 91
with Brabham
again. And then he went to Benetton with Michael.
Yes.
93.
Ligier with Mark Blundell.
With Ligier. Then he went to McLaren. Then he was sharing
the
a seat.
McLaren Peugeot. Peugeot.
Sharing a seat with Allia, wasn't
Aguri Suzuki at Ligier.
Yes.
Again in 95, and then Jordan. So just couldn't stay in one place ever.
Yeah. Can I say how random it is to do Tyrrell 3 years, Zach Speed, then go to Williams?
It's a weird one because people and
Well,
this is
Williams
something.
was a replacement gig, but still.
Yeah, I think he was encouraged not to do more than just the one race. I think he could have done Monza, and had he done Monza, McLaren would have won every race that year because he wouldn't have been Jean-Louis Schlesser. But he was told don't, and I'm not sure why. But I think he himself was getting fed up because people, and he does this himself. People always compare him to Senna because they were the ones battling in British F3. But he's even said, well, it wasn't really much of a fight. And look at the results. Senna won like nearly every race. And he always brings up that example of him taking the wet line at Silverstone and all of that stuff. But beyond that,
And Brundle
like,
had the British bias, which at the time was quite strong in terms of relations.
but his results were not bad. It's just they were kind of. I mean, the thing is, I actually with with the Tyrrell season, I wrote down the results if none of them had been disqualified, and they're actually far better than what Beloff did for him because he got points in the first race in Brazil.
Yeah.
And he got the podium in Detroit, but that was how they got found out. But they realized the car was underweight and whatnot, and then broke his legs in Dallas. And that obviously had knock-on effects in the same way that Johnny Herbert had to carry permanent injuries.
Yeah.
Which meant, and it did the same. It did the same. There was somebody trying to slag him off. Like, again, it was another Hamilton fan. It's like, oh, this guy can't criticize Hamilton when they were just blanket showing his stats.
Yeah.
It's like not getting the context that his and Hamilton's careers could not be more different in terms of the teams they drove for and the cars that they were driving.
Yeah. Speaking of a driver who had permanent injuries, we didn't actually get to do him because we cut off after Heidfeld. Do you want to go back to Kubica and then we'll go back to some more old drivers?
Is Kubica a midfielder? I guess he is. Yeah.
2006, 2007.
Yeah,
most of
6.
Yeah.
So one thing on Brundle, I'm just saying he's a big. Well, his career was jeopardized a lot by the fact that only the top 6 scored points, a bit like Alboreto. Because I'm thinking, or Tyrrell in general, I feel like they were always finishing 7th, 8th. Because Brundle in 85, he would have gotten 30 points in today's system, and he got no points because he kept finishing 7th or 8th. And there were so many drivers like this from that era who just always finished 7th and 8th, which is a good position, but it was so harsh at the time.
But then again, but back in those days, if you finished in the top 10, you
the
were
grid.
Yeah, it would just be like handing out participation trophies in a way.
Because it's like, congrats, your gearbox lasted for 90 minutes was all that meant, really. Yeah, but no, in the modern point system, Brundle would have 536 points from 158 starts, which would rank him 66th overall.
An average finishing around about 8th, 7th or 8th, which is
So a points average of 3.39. So that's extreme. That's higher than Ocon on Gasly, as an example, and it's higher than
it's just I feel like top 8 was fair, top 10 whatever, top 6 was something. Can you imagine driving to 7th, starting 25th and finishing 7th? And he is.
How do you think Michele Alboreto felt? He had 4 consecutive 7th places at the start of 1992.
Well, there are drivers that there are. I'm trying to think. I remember now. There were a couple of drivers who literally went from the back row of the grid to the podium because everyone else retired. And even when you got to the final classification, 2 or 3 of those cars are ones that didn't actually cross the finish line because they did the 90%. They got classified. Like, there are so many races in the 1980s where like 5 cars actually finished, and it's ridiculous. That's why another reason, again, if you're trying to compare drivers across eras, other than the cars handling differently, cars breaking down all the time, it's such a blot on careers that you don't get these days.
Yeah.
That's why it's so impressive when certain front runners at the time didn't have those issues. Like the McLaren MP44, it's not just the pace, it's the fact it didn't break down at the time.
I mean, it did.
It did a little bit, but not abnormally. And I mean, the one race they lost wasn't Prost retired, but Senna, that was an accident. It wasn't because of mechanical problems that meant. Yeah,
I think they had 3 or 4 mechanical DNFs that season over.
It would have been, but there were some drivers in worse teams in the 1980s where literally they did not finish a single race. And I'm like, and I've been looking at this like, I would just give up. Like, why? Knowing you're not going to see the checkered flag once, like, why would you bother? And
even if you see the checkered flag, you're going to finish 12th, which is lost 4 laps down.
Yeah, and you're just thinking, I'd be like, well, this is I'd be thinking, what is going on with the mechanics? Why can't they just make the car run for 90 minutes without any problems?
It's
Like,
because
is it
they're
really that
Italians.
difficult? Yeah,
Mm.
I mean,
Also,
Azella is
when at the time sports car and Group B was killing it, why
Well, yeah, they
stay
were
in
doing
F1 just to drive with spirit and all?
Well, yeah, I mean, some of them have said this. They were like, people just at the time it was like it was big sports cars, but not. It just wasn't Formula One, and they wouldn't because there
Yeah.
were drivers that were crap in Formula One, but then won Le Mans, but people just didn't care, and F1 teams didn't care like as well. They were like, oh, you've won Le Mans, let's bring him back in or something.
That's fair. There's
It
a
kind of
lot of
happened.
the 90s Le Mans winners were shit in F1. Yeah, like Yannick Dalmas or like Pedro Lamy. They
Paolo
were
Barilla, I think,
they
Yeah,
had
one of them.
like feel
cars.
like there's also like Jan Lammers and Johnny Dumfries as well. I mean, Emanuele Pirro was just average in Formula One, and he won Le Mans 6 times or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, five
Tarquini was
times. Yeah.
dog shit in F1, but was like the goat of touring cars. Like,
It reminds me of like early 2000s kart or IndyCar. People like Tora Takagi ripping it up.
yeah, Bourdais,
Was
four-time
he was he
car
good there?
champion. And
What do you say?
Was
I,
Ken?
Takagi good there?
Yeah, Takagi was good in Indy from what I remember.
I didn't know he
Um,
did Indy because I thought he did Super GT. But the thing is, he has vanished from the face of the earth after 2005. There's
is
no
he?
record of him. I mean, he obviously hasn't raced since then, but there's no record of him anywhere. And the Japanese drivers are all like buddies and know each other, and none of them ever. He doesn't appear online or any photos or anything. So I wonder what he's doing now.
The Stig.
Yeah, maybe it's that.
Japanese Stig.
Who are you, who are you gonna
Stig-san.
mention? Stig-san. Who are you gonna mention? Nedzo, the next driver.
We said because Brundle was got permanent injuries. We said we're going to do Kubica. We never really got a chance to properly do him.
Yeah, but Kubica is not really midfield, is he?
Like it's just that's the thing that okay, 06 is midfield, 07 is not midfield, and neither is 08. 09, I guess,
Yeah.
is midfield.
And
2010 is it's so marginal. It's just on that line, and then 2019 is a whole other category. It's not it's not really midfield, and again because of the injury, it's a very stop-start career.
Okay.
It's hard to pin it properly. He had.
What
Even if
about Johnny Herbert?
I mean, see, this is the thing. Johnny Herbert is like a BTEC version of Giancarlo Fisichella because he was all right in midfield cars, and then in the front running cars, essentially, literally, all of his free wins were complete luck. It was Monza and Silverstone were Damon Hill deciding to be a terrorist, and 1999 Europe. I mean, if there's any more of a fluke win, it's going to be 1999 Europe.
Anyone could have won that race. Like,
yes.
That he was just so desperate. I mean, him and Alesi were kind of joined at the hip because they were just the kings of the midfield in the 90s.
Yeah.
And his 1 year in a decent car, and he just gets bodied by Michael. Does Herbert?
Yeah. I mean,
well, again, he moved around everywhere. Like, because he was 89. He started with Tyrrell.
Yes.
He was there in 90.
Didn't he also do a race for Benetton? Because I think Italy 1989 was like his breakout race. Or is that just a figment of my imagination?
He was always with. Oh, maybe he did. No. Yeah, he was with Benetton. Yeah, he went to Benetton for a bit. 90. I think 90.
Well, when you type Herbert on Google now, you get an American football quarterback. That's how poorly Johnny Herbert performed.
Johnny. Okay. Tyrrell 1990. Wasn't there some Jordan in there?
Well, not in 1990, obviously, but
no, not 91. I'm feeling maybe he gives the vibe of being a Jordan driver because every midfielder drove for Jordan at one point.
Right, so Benetton was 1989. He filled in for Tyrrell in 2 races. 1990 Lotus, 91. Well, 1990 he finished Lotus season. 91 he drove some races for Lotus. 92 still with Lotus, first full-time season. 93 Lotus. 94 Lotus, but then he moves to Ligier and Benetton, and then 95 Benetton.
And then he's with them 96, 97. Then he goes to.
He's with, he's with Sauber.
Yeah, Sauber, yeah. Sauber. Then he does. What's his face? Then it's Stewart, and then Jag. So yeah, just moving around a lot. Again, I get him mixed up with him and Sean Lacey because I think they were teammates at Sauber as well.
Yes.
It just gets a bit confusing.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a whole lot. There's quite a few British drivers from that era, like Derek Warwick, for example, is another one who has come to fanfare in recent years, but he is just another. He's one of the best drivers never to get a win.
Yeah, I mean, he really got shafted by Senna
Yeah.
to just not let him get that Lotus seat because then he got stuck at Renault. And then I think he turned down a drive with, I've forgotten who now. There was another big team he turned down a drive to stay at Renault, and then Renault collapsed.
Yeah.
And then he
Why
got
did he
and then
turn down that drive?
I think he wanted to stay with Renault because he thought things were going well and he could build something there. But then they lost half of their engineers in '85, and then said we're going to quit at the end of the season. So that just collapsed. And then he did sports cars, but then he came in to replace DeAngelis at Brabham.
Yeah.
And then went to Arrows and finished off with them.
Yeah. He could have done a lot more.
Yeah, I mean there were a bunch of races he could have won, but the car broke down as well. So yeah. There was at least five races that he was on course to win it.
I'm just checking for Herbert as well. He finished 7th or 8th 28 times.
Yeah.
That's
So he as well.
insane.
What's his point? What would his points have been like? Modern points.
Also, it must
He
be
got,
said that when Herbert was at Lotus, Lotus had already fallen off.
Yeah, his one is very similar to Brundle actually. So Johnny Herbert 530 points from 161 starts, whereas Brundle was 536 points from 158 starts. So there's hardly any difference between them.
Yeah, that was Lotus when they had no money and they started getting those Lamborghini Judd and Ford engines, and
then they had that thing of they did, that was because they had like a D spec car by '94, and then it was. They went through 10,000 drivers. Larousse decided every single French person that's ever lived is going to drive for us in 1994.
Yannick Dalmas, Frank Lagos,
Eric Bernard. Oh, there's probably another one in there. There's going to be.
It's hilarious because all of those drivers went on to do Le Mans and finished like first or second.
Well, that's the thing. They all won Le Mans, but they all just dog shit in Formula One.
Jean-Denis Delapaz. I know he's Swiss, but
did he do well? You know, Switzerland's not a real country, so
he didn't do Le Mans, but he was.
They had six. Yeah, they had 6 drivers in one season.
Lotus had 7 in '94.
Yeah, Larousse. Yeah, they started with Olivier Beretta and Eric Comas, and then Beretta got replaced by Philippe Alliot for 1 race, then Yannick Dalmas for 2 races, then Hideki Noda for the final 3, and then Comas got replaced by Delatraz for the final race. It's like just make your mind up.
It was just, I think it's the
Yeah.
How would you say it in English? Theseus's F1 team?
What?
The ship.
The ship.
Theseus.
Theseus, huh?
Theseus, but how would you say it in English? You know, is the ship the same if you change all the parts of the ship?
What? Can you spell that again? Sorry.
Theseus.
Jesus. What? Huh?
Theseus. The guy who had a ship where every part was removed, and there's the philosophy thing of is it the same ship if you remove all the parts of the ship?
I've never heard of this guy. Hey, I can't.
No, please type THE.
THE. Yeah.
SE.
SE.
US.
Theseus. Oh, okay.
Oh, Theseus. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I couldn't hear your spelling properly. I was like, Jesus? What? Theseus. Well, Theseus is the one that he slayed the Minotaur.
No, but Theseus's ship is the theory that, well, if you change all parts of a ship at different times, is it still the same ship after, or is it a different ship? And I'm saying
yeah.
What on earth has this episode descended into?
Yeah.
Well, it has descended into me trying to spell a word.
Yeah, it's the same like my bicycle, which I've had for about 20 years now. I think the only original component left is the frame. I've replaced basically everything else. Like it's like when you see these videos on YouTube, like people restoring like a lawnmower from the 1950s or an old toy that's rusty and horrible. And it's like, so now I'm going to replace the wheels, and then I'm going to replace all of this. It's like, that's not the same toy. You've just replaced everything and given it a paint job. That's not a restoration. That's just a reconstruction. Like, yeah. But with this, I mean, well, it's not. I mean, well, the car was the same. Well, actually, even with Lotus, they went through two different cars. The ar was the same, but the drivers are just, whoever they could find. But yeah, Lotus went through. Yeah, they had five no, Pedro Lamy.
7 drivers.
Yeah, they did have seven drivers, didn't they? So they started with.
And the thing is, all of those drivers had good racing careers after. Nearly all of them.
Yeah. So
Johnny
started
Herbert,
with Pedro Lamy.
Adams.
Then they got Alex Zanardi came in. Then he gets replaced by Philippe Adams, and then Zanardi comes back again, and then Philippe Adams comes back again. Then it's Eric Bernard, and Johnny Herbert loses out to Eric Bernard and Mika Salo. Just crazy.
Who the fuck was that Philippe Adams guy?
He was just a Belgian guy who did. I thought he only did the home race at Spa, didn't he?
He did 2 races. He crashed in Spa,
and then he did Portugal. But you look at his Wikipedia page. He won British Formula 2 in 1993 when he was 24, so that's not too bad.
I don't know if it's incomplete, but he missed 4 races and still won the championship.
Yes.
I mean, he won 5 of them, but like how?
Wait,
he won it.
Click on the page. Does the Wikipedia page for it exist? And he he just won all of them.
Half the people he was competing against don't have a Wikipedia article. He won it by only 3 points. But the guy that finished second, Mika van Hoel, he missed 2 races himself. Jose Luis de Palma.
Enrico Bertagia was on the grid. He did Formula 1.
He did. He never started a race. He did Coloni and then he did Andrea Moda. He did 3 races with them. Pierre. Oh no, different Chauvet. Pierre. I was like Pierre Chauvet. Pierre-Louis Chauvet. No, obviously different person.
He wasn't born.
Jose Luis de Palma. So he did every race. He got 3 pole positions and 2 wins. He did
Indy Lights.
2 years of Indy Lights and did fuck all. And then went back to South America.
Nigel Smith did BTCC with a Vauxhall Cavalier as well, but got no points.
Dominic Chappelle. There's a picture of a dock of a dry dock and a shop. Oh, he became a businessman, and he was made bankrupt 3 times. Nice.
Oh wow.
Island Harbour. He developed the Island Harbour Marina in the Isle of Wight. He bought British Home Stores and they shut down. Oh, nice. Oh, he went to prison as well for failing to pay almost more than £500,000 in tax. Ah, nice guy. He was a person.
I think this is slowly wrapping up the episode. I think that's the time for.
Yeah, I was going to mention 80s drivers, but we'll be here forever if we start going into like De Cesaris and Boutsen and people like that. But yeah,
Capelli.
Yeah. 2 years.
Does Nannini count?
Yeah.
Oh god, again upper midfield, really, with the Benetton. I mean, they were the kings of like non-turbo cars. He just his career could have gone somewhere, and then his arm came off, and it didn't. De Cesaris crashed way too often. I don't understand him because he's like the final boss of Italian drivers because he just crashed constantly and did everything he could to self-sabotage, and then he managed to drive for 14 teams in a 15-year career
because of his marble money.
Yeah, and it's like, of course, it would be cigarettes as well. Like how did he just keep getting employed?
I might genuinely use that as a video title. Andrea De Cesaris is the final boss of Italian F1 drivers.
I think in his first season he crashed 17 times or something. Like there was 1 crash per weekend.
And people say Maldonado was bad at crashing.
Yeah. I mean, with Maldonado, it's obviously recency bias, and also we have most of those filmed, whereas a lot of those would have been practice crashes that weren't caught on camera. But then he did nearly kill himself, Austria 1985. That was quite a dramatic.
He also literally caused Ron Dennis to be anti-Italians. After he drove with him in 1981, Ron Dennis said he'd never hire an Italian driver again.
And I don't think he did. I'm trying to think.
No,
I
he
don't
didn't.
remember.
He didn't.
No. I mean, he must have known. Yeah, he must have realised it was an Italian problem because look at every other Italian driver in that decade, and yeah. But he was just perpetually employed somehow, and I don't understand how he did it. And there are some like Piercarlo Ginzani. That man had 4 stints
That's
with
what I say
Azella.
about a lot of my friends, to be fair. They're employed and I have no idea how, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Piercarlo Ginzani. He was in Formula One for 9 years and scored points in 1 race because he spent almost all of that time with Azella. It's one of the most just dispiriting careers ever. Like Boutsen was just a placeholder until Williams and Benetton got decent drivers, pretty much. Patrese could be a midfielder to some extent in the 80s, at least. Maybe not so much in the 90s, but he had midfield vibes.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of his. I don't think I can think of any more drivers. I think we've exhausted all the previous options.
Yeah. Well, there's some food for thought, I guess, for our audience about if you have any ideas of best midfielder, and if you do, let us know in the comments. You've been listening to the DRS Train podcast. We're on YouTube and Spotify, and you can find us on Instagram and X at the DRS Train podcast. Become a channel member, and you can get early access to videos as well as some behind-the-scenes clips, and you can join our current members, Birak Toshkun, Chris O'Dea, and Blue Guy. Make sure to tune in for the next episode. Stay safe, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.